If there is one principle that instantly changes the way women respond to your messages, it's this: clarity is masculine and clarity is attractive. In a world full of half-hearted men, mixed signals, and low-effort communication, emotional clarity stands out like a lighthouse. Women don't get emotionally invested because a man texts a lot. They get invested because his communication carries direction, purpose, and intention. Most men accidentally create confusion. They send inconsistent messages. They respond with random energy, playful one day, cold the next, overly eager in one moment, indifferent in another. That inconsistency doesn't make her fantasize, it makes her cautious. Feminine energy doesn't bloom in uncertainty. It doesn't open when it feels unsafe or unsure. Confusion forces a woman into her masculine, evaluating, problem-solving, trying to decode what he meant instead of simply feeling the interaction. But when your texting style carries clarity, she shifts into her natural feminine softness. She relaxes. She becomes expressive. Her imagination opens. She starts to anticipate your messages because they land. They feel intentional, grounded, and confident. Clarity doesn't mean being aggressive or controlling. It simply means your communication has direction. For example, instead of, "Hey, what's up? What are you doing? With tonight? Maybe we should hang out sometime." A man with emotional clarity texts like, "I've got time Wednesday evening. Let's grab that drink you mentioned." Notice the difference. One is noise. The other is leadership. Emotional clarity is not just about making plans. It shows up in your tone. It's the difference between playful interest and needy attachment. It's the difference between expressing desire and seeking approval. A woman can feel when you're texting from a grounded place versus a place of insecurity. Feminine women fantasize about men who send messages that feel like they came from someone with a centered internal world. Someone who knows what he wants, says what he means, and doesn't communicate to get a reaction or boost his ego. This clarity also shows up in timing. You don't text out of boredom. You don't double text out of anxiety. You don't use messages to fill emotional gaps. Instead, you send intentional, meaningful communication that adds value to her day. And because you aren't flooding her with low-quality messages, every text you send becomes more impactful, more felt. Clarity makes your words hit different. It also makes a woman emotionally safe. Texting a confused man feels like walking through fog. She never knows what he wants, what he means, or how to respond. But texting a man with emotional clarity is like stepping into warm sunlight. She feels held, guided, and free to be expressive. She doesn't worry about saying the wrong thing, and she doesn't fear judgment. And that safety is what triggers emotional fantasy. When she can trust your tone, she begins to let her imagination build a picture of who you are. She fills in the emotional space with curiosity, excitement, and warmth. She's not thinking about other guys. She's thinking about the one man whose presence feels unmistakably strong, even through messages. Women don't fantasize about men who text more. They fantasize about men who text better, and clarity is the foundation of that connection. If there is one shift that instantly elevates the way women experience your messages, it's understanding the difference between presence and performance. Most men don't text women, they perform for them. And performance never creates emotional fantasy. In fact, it usually kills it. Performance is what happens when a man tries too hard. Presence is what happens when a man is grounded. Performance looks like overthinking every response, trying to be funny, trying to be clever, trying to impress her with emojis or overly enthusiastic replies. A performer is always trying to get a reaction, approval, validation, attention. And women can feel that. Feminine intuition picks up immediately when a man doesn't feel centered within himself. When she senses performance, her feminine walls go up because she feels like she is being entertained. One of the most powerful things you can do through texting, something almost no man understands, is creating emotional space for a woman to express her feminine energy. When a woman feels free to open up, share, describe, and express herself without pressure or judgment, she naturally becomes more emotionally invested. And emotional investment is what leads her to think about you throughout the day. Most men, without realizing it, shut down feminine twin expression. They do it through short replies. They do it through dry questions. They do it by changing the subject too fast. They do it by trying to steer the conversation toward their interests. What they don't understand is that texting is one of the most natural ways a feminine woman expresses her emotional world. She communicates to, if you want to understand how feminine imagination works, you must understand this truth: women connect through imagery, not logic. Their emotional world is activated not by facts, not by blunt statements, but by pictures, sensations, and moments they can feel. When a woman fantasizes about a man, she isn't replaying his words. She's replaying the emotions, the visuals, the subtle details he inspired in her mind. This is why sensory language is so powerful. Sensory language doesn't mean being sexual or explicit. It means being evocative, describing things in a way that allows her mind to fill in the emotional texture. It means using words that have color, warmth, rhythm, and feeling. When you communicate this way, she doesn't just read your message, she experiences. One of the most magnetic dynamics you can create with a woman, especially through texting, is the balance of comfort and mystery. When these two forces work together, they create emotional tension, curiosity, and anticipation. This is the exact combination that keeps you in her thoughts, replaying your messages, wondering about you throughout her day. Most men only offer one or the other. Some offer too much. One of the most underrated parts of texting, the part that almost every man gets wrong, is how you end the conversation. Most guys end things abruptly, lazily, or without any emotional intention. They say things like, GTG, I'm busy, talk later, or they simply stop replying in hopes of looking mysterious. None of that creates fantasy. None of that makes a woman think about you afterward. If anything, it kills the emotional spark that was building. A feminine woman doesn't fantasize based on what started the conversation. She fantasizes based on how it ended. The ending is what lingers in her mind while she's busy, while she's at work, while she's on her daily routine. The ending is the last energetic imprint she feels from you. And that imprint determines whether she replays the conversation privately throughout the day or forgets it entirely. Most men end conversations with dryness. Masculine men end conversations with momentum. Emotional momentum means the conversation ends on a warm, confident, grounded note. It means she feels emotionally energized rather than disconnected. It means she feels both appreciated and intrigued. A good ending makes her think, wow, that was different. That felt good. That's how fantasy begins, not from long paragraphs or non-stop communication, but from the last emotional tone you leave her with. Ending with momentum is not about sending dramatic lines or romantic poems. It's about leaving her with a clear emotional signal that resonates. For example, instead of, all right, cool, talk later, okay, G2G, you say. I've got to run for a bit, but I'm actually enjoying this. We'll continue later. Or, all right, sweetheart, I'll catch you in a bit. You're fun to talk to. Or, let me get back to this meeting. Don't disappear on me. These are simple. They're grounded. They're masculine. And most importantly, they leave her wanting more. Ending with momentum also prevents over-texting. It frames you as a man with structure, purpose, and direction. When you end the interaction confidently, you show you're not desperately clinging to her attention. You're simply guiding the conversation with masculine certainty. This approach makes a woman feel safe. When she knows the conversation won't drag endlessly or become awkward, she relaxes. She feels like she can express herself because the energy is held by a man who's stable and intentional. Feminine energy grows in emotional safety. And on the mystery side, ending with momentum hints at continuation without giving everything away. That unspoken next moment becomes the exact thing her mind drifts to throughout the day. She starts wondering what you'll say next, how the next conversation will feel, and what direction the connection might take. A great ending is like closing a book at the perfect chapter. You can't help but think about what comes next. This is how you get a woman's emotions activated. This is how you create space for her imagination to deepen. This is how you stay in her thoughts without chasing, without over-texting, without forcing anything unnatural. The ending line. And when you end conversations with that kind of emotional momentum, she won't just wait for your next message. She'll replay the last one in her mind until it arrives.